Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Kat. For today's video, it's one of my favorite videos to do when the year ends, and that is my favorite and least favorite books. I have about 10 books on each list. I think about 10 books. I'll just briefly go over why I didn't like it or why I did like it, and then move on. Also, I am wearing my jewelry that I sell on my store for this video, so I got these bracelets, I got these rings, and I got these earrings, and if you're interested in checking them out, the link is below. So let's start with my favorite books of 2024. I wanted to give an honorable mention to Harry Potter. So I read Harry Potter 1 and 2. I started because I was feeling very nostalgic and I just wanted to dive back into the world of Hogwarts, and I'm really glad I did. So I'll be continuing my Harry Potter journey. I was hoping to finish the series last year. Didn't end up happening. That's okay. I still had such a good time with the first two books. I didn't realize how much I missed this world and how much I loved being with these characters. It was such a delight, and reading it as an adult is a whole different experience. I would say if you've loved Harry Potter as a child, to give it a chance as an adult, because the reading experience is different, and I think I had much more fun reading this as an adult so far than when I was a kid. I'm gonna start off with Manacled by Sun Lin Yu. So Manacled is a Draco Hermione fanfic, and it is the first fanfic I ever read and the only one I've read so far. Basically, it's a spin on The Handmaid's Tale. In this world, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix are defeated by Voldemort and his army, and Hermione is put through this surrogacy program, and she becomes the handmaid for Draco. I think I finished this in about 3 days. I'll admit in the beginning it was very slow, but oh my goodness, once you kind of get to the middle end, it just hits you so hard. And when you get to that ending, oh my goodness, it's like Sun Lin Yu just drove a stake through my heart. Sun Lin Yu is also getting traditionally published because Manacled went viral. Definitely well deserving of this opportunity. Manacled is no longer online, and the book that she is going to be publishing is basically Manacled with like some minor changes, such as the names of the characters and all that fun stuff. Definitely an emotional journey, but such a fantastic read of 2024. Now I'm gonna get all my Brandon Sandersons out of the way. One of my favorite trilogies ever I read last year, and it was my first books by Brandon Sanderson that I read, and that is the Mistborn trilogy. This is Era 1. I'm gonna hold up Well of Ascension because this was actually my favorite book in the trilogy. But Mistborn, oh my goodness, I wish I can read this trilogy again, because this was such a fantastic trilogy. It had everything that I could want in a fantasy book, and it was probably my best introduction to Brandon Sanderson. So if you're looking to get into Brandon Sanderson, I'm sure like a lot of people will suggest starting with Mistborn, and I totally agree. It is not very complicated, and his writing is so simple that it makes it accessible for new readers. So it definitely is one of those trilogies that everyone should read at least once in their lifetime, or at least give it a chance. This trilogy starts off as a heist, and then we go on this crazy journey, and you think you know what's happening, but no, you do not know. I was fooled so many times, and that seems to be Brandon Sanderson's thing. He seems to totally lead the readers on only to shock them with some plot twist, and his endings to his books are very notable. Like, he's very well known for his endings and how they leave the reader feeling. Then I read The 11th Metal and Secret History and The Arcanum Unbounded. The 11th Metal was okay. It wasn't like my favorite, but it was okay. However, Secret History, oh my goodness, it is the closure I didn't know I needed. Like, there are some books that you don't get closure from, and it just leaves this gaping hole in your heart. And then I read Secret History, and it filled that gaping hole. Secret History was much needed. It made everything better. I know some people say to read Secret History in between the Mistborn Era 2 books. However, I have to disagree. I think reading it after Hero of Ages, it's perfect, but you know, you could read it in whatever order you'd like. Last but not least, I have Warbreaker, and this was another great read. I read this towards the end of last year. This, I would say, is another great introduction to Brandon Sanderson. So far as a standalone, I have heard that he might be doing a sequel, but that's probably going to be far in the future. This would be great to start off with if you're just getting into Brandon Sanderson and you just want to start off with a standalone versus a trilogy like Mistborn. It's cute. There's a bit of a romance subplot. It's very adorable in my opinion. And then there's a lot of other plot twists and betrayals. Character growth in this book is amazing. The journeys the different characters go on is fantastic. And again, you just get that amazing Brandon Sanderson world building and just an amazingly unique magic system that has to do with breaths and colors. So very unique, very different, and I really enjoy this. I'm glad I read it, and I cannot wait to continue my Brandon Sanderson journey into 2025. The next books I have are by Riley Sager. So I have Home Before Dark and The Only One Left. I started my Riley Sager journey, I think in 2023. I read Lock Every Door. I am a huge Riley Sager fan already. I've only read 4 books so far. I think that he's a great thriller writer. And these 2 books were definitely my favorites. Like the plot twists and the pacing of the story was really well done in my personal opinion. And his writing is very captivating. I don't know, I just love how creepy his books can be, especially Home Before Dark. This book really creeped me out. So if you're looking for like a good creepy book, especially when October rolls around, then I would say these 2 are your best bet, especially Home Before Dark. Most readers are pretty split between liking Riley Sager's books and not. I'm glad to be in the camp that does like his books. I had a great time and I just cannot wait to read more of his books. Then I have the Court of Ravens duology by Liv Zander. So we have Feather So Vicious and Shadow So Cruel. These are my first dark fantasy romance books that I've read, and let me tell you, they are dark, they are heavy, and they are triggering. So please, if you want to give this duology a try, read the trigger warnings. I should have done that, but didn't. So these books were pretty triggering for me, I'll be honest. It was hard to stomach a lot of the scenes, and there were a lot of triggering scenes that I had to just skim through. I read these books the beginning of last year, so it's been so many months since I read these, and I still can't stop thinking about them or the characters. It's funny because while I was compiling my books for this video, I went back and reread some of my favorite scenes, some of these sweet moments between the characters, and there were plenty. The characters are so lovely. I love them, although there's a lot of morally gray characters. I would even go into like morally black characters, but their growths and their journey is something that's been forever stamped on my heart. And just the story itself was very interesting. I like where the author was going, and the world building was very simple. I personally like them in terms of that. However, again, please read all the triggers. I believe they are on the author's website. Another favorite of last year is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. This is my first Alice Oseman book, and oh my goodness, I'm so glad I read it. Alice Oseman is a great author, and I can tell just by reading this one book of hers. I'm already excited to jump into her other books, especially her Heartstopper graphic novels. This book felt very personal because these characters go through a lot that I felt like I went through, especially all the academic pressure. I could totally relate to that. When I was in school, I experienced a lot of academic pressure, and to perform at my highest and at my best, and that mixed with all the other things that come with being a teenager, it can make life a little confusing and a little hard at that time. Also, the way Alice Oseman wrote about these characters and their identities and discovering themselves, it was very beautiful. Like, these characters were very beautifully written, even while they were going through their struggles. I just loved how real it felt, and I think it really takes authors like Alice Oseman to make these characters feel very believable. Like, these aren't just made up characters, like there's so much of them that you can connect with. She's just one of those authors that make you fall in love with their characters, and she definitely seems like more of a character driven author, and that's perfect. I love that, and especially if she can write like this. Cannot wait for more Alice Oseman in 2025. Then I have Fangs, which is a graphic novel, and this is basically exploring the relationship between a werewolf and a vampire. This was so cute and so hilarious. I truly enjoyed this graphic novel a lot. I wish it was longer. That is my only criticism. I'm really glad I picked it up. It was a short, very quick read. So if you're looking for something just to fill in any gaps, or if you're looking for something to read after reading something long or heavy, then I would really recommend Fangs. I think it's just adorable. You're gonna love these characters, even though you only get to spend a few pages with them. If you read Fangs and you have any recommendations that are similar to this, please let me know. I have Deathbringer, which is book 6 in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. The Skullduggery Pleasant series has become a favorite series. I started it in 2023, I believe, and this is the first 5-star book I gave in the series so far. This book was well done. I think it was well edited, it was well paced, and there was a lot of plot twists that I did not see coming, and I loved the emotional depth that went into this book that I was not expecting, because overall this book is funny and it does not take itself seriously, and it's very lighthearted, but then there's a lot of deeper things that happened in this book and deeper conversations that took place. I love going on the adventures with our skeleton detective and his sidekick. They are a great pair. I think Derek Landy has 2 more books coming out in the series, possibly, so it's going to be like a total of 18 books, and I've only read 7 books so far, so I got a ways to go. Then I have Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Andy Weir books have become unexpected favorites of mine. I read The Martian. I really like The Martian. I read Project Hail Mary last year and I really liked it too. I'm not the biggest sci-fi person, definitely not a sci-fi girly. Even without being a sci-fi reader, I still really enjoyed this. It was funny. I love how Andy Weir writes his main characters, love being in their head because it's hilarious. The unexpected friendship that happens between 2 characters, it just really pulls on your heartstrings. You can't help but root for these characters to complete their mission. And I love that. I love the character work in this book. I love the overall plot in this book and how our characters had to survive and how they had to find their way of communicating. I think it was very genius. Some of the science-y scenes and parts can be a little dragging. However, despite that, I still had a good time. Definitely recommend, even if you're not the biggest sci-fi reader, I totally understand. Even if you feel like sci-fi books can be a little too technical, I get it. However, I would say try Andy Weir, give him a shot. You might just like it. And then last but not least, not only one of my favorite books of last year, but also my favorite cover of last year, Starter Villain by John Scalzi. Starter Villain is the book that I did not know I needed in my life. I bought this book mainly because of this cover. I love cats, okay? And this cat is in a suit. I'm sold. And then I read the book and the story is so good. We got talking animals, talking dolphins, cats that are agents, and a main character who inherits his uncle's villain business, and all these other villains are out here to get him. Very comical, definitely does not take itself seriously, and it's just a fun time. If you're looking for a fun book to laugh at or just something lighthearted, then I would definitely recommend this book. It was a really good time. So now we're gonna get into the books that were not my favorites of last year. Before I kickstart my least favorite books, I want to give an honorable mention to Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. The reason I didn't really like this book is because I felt like it was too YA and too insta-lovey for me. I know that if I were younger, I would have enjoyed this book. Because I'm older and I read this, I feel like it's really unfair for me to rate it so low, but I'm going to be honest with my experience. What I really did enjoy about this was the writing style for Laini Taylor, but everything else, it wasn't my cup of tea, and I felt like there were a lot of boring bits, and the story was dragging. There wasn't much happening in the story either until you get to the end, but even then, it felt like it was dragging, so I didn't have the best experience, but I will continue on with this trilogy. So I'm going to start off with Mr. and Mrs. Witch, and this is by Gwenda Bond. Now this book had a really great premise. We have a witch and we have a witch hunter. They both fall in love and they get married, but they're hiding their identities from each other. The plot seemed very interesting. However, the execution was not that great and it just felt slow. Like honestly, the book felt very slow and the characters were okay. I mean, their banter was fun here and there, but overall it just didn't really scratch the itch that I was hoping it would. Then I have Oblivion, which is book 3 in the Nevermore trilogy by Kelly Craig. Now, this trilogy, I'm sure if I were like 13 or something, I'd probably really enjoy it because it's very early YA. It's like early 2010 YA. This had a pretty good overall concept. It has to do with Edgar Allan Poe's poems coming to life and that mixing in with the dreams and dream world and stuff. I didn't have the greatest time with this trilogy, and I can't wait till I actually remove these books from my shelf, as harsh as that seems. I read it, I felt like I gave it enough of my time. Finishing this third book was a struggle, and it was a drag. It was just a slow read, and one that I could not wait to finish. Next, I have The Family Game by Catherine Steadman. Again, another plot that I was hoping would be executed better. I thought this book was about a crazy family, but it's not about a crazy family. It's not even about a murderous family, which is another thing I was hoping. It's just about a family with crazy traditions. Our main character, she is a British novelist, and she will not let you forget that. Okay, the amount of times that she mentions that she's British and she's a novelist is insane. I probably mentioned this in a wrap-up video, but even if by the end of this book, you don't remember anything in this book, you don't remember what happened, you will remember that she is a British novelist. There's also just awkward tension between her, the main character, and her future father-in-law. Like, there was like weird sexual tension, and it was just weird. I don't even know why that had to be there, but it was just weird, and I'm glad it didn't play out in the book, but it seemed unnecessary. I don't know if the author really took their time to flesh out that mystery plotline, so I wish more time was taken there. But yeah, this really did not reach my expectations, and I was very hopeful for this book. Then we have The Vampire's Fake Fiancé, which is book 5 in the Nocturne Falls series. So Nocturne Falls series is hit or miss so far. The characters were so bland. They were probably the blandest characters I've read in this series so far. There was a lot of potential, but the characters ruined it. There's just too many things that are rushed in this book. Nothing was really fully fleshed out or explored, and not even this relationship, not the characters for sure. And I get it, these books are more like popcorn books, like you just have a quick fun time with it, but I was hoping for a little bit more because the previous 4 books that I've read in the series, there's been a little bit more, but this one delivered the least. I have Immortal Coil and Kingdom of the Wicked, which are books 5 and 7 in the Skullduggery series. Surprising that these are here because I really enjoyed book 6. I don't know what happened in these books. I feel like the editing was really bad. I don't think these books were edited well. Book 7 definitely, because there was a lot of like errors that I found. So I don't know how thorough the editing was. And I just feel like these books were long for no reason. There was a lot of filler scenes, a lot of filler dialogue, and just scenes that felt very unnecessary. It did nothing for the plot, did nothing for the story, nothing for the characters. These were like 2 of my least favorite books in the series so far. Books 1 through 4 I enjoyed thoroughly. Book 6 I enjoyed thoroughly, but books 5 and 7, they haven't been my favorites. So the series seems to be just one of those where you're gonna have a couple misses. I've had more hits than misses, thankfully. So overall, I am enjoying the series. Then I have Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is book 2 in the From Blood and Ash series. I read From Blood and Ash a couple of years ago, and I did like it, but also it was like one of my first romantasy books. I really didn't have anything to compare it to. Kingdom of Flesh and Fire? No, this was not it. First of all, this is a chunker. It's like 600 something pages long, and there was so much repetition. So many things that were being repeated, so many dialogues that were being repeated. It just felt like a book filled with repetitive sentences and repetitive moments, scenes, repetitive dialogue, repetitive descriptions even. I don't think it was really well done, in my honest opinion. I don't know if I will enjoy the rest of the books in the series, but I do have the rest of the books in the series. Unfortunately, I just like bought all of them at once when I was buying the series. Not only that, but I'm not a huge fan of Poppy, which is our main female character. I don't see any growth in her, and I get it, her world's been turned upside down from the first book to this book. However, I just don't see that much growth. That makes it hard for me to believe this character's strength and growth when I don't read anything about it. Even if the other characters around her say that she's strong, she's powerful, this and that, I just don't see it. The romance in this, I don't really care about. I was more invested in this plot and this world building. There were a lot of slow moments. Honestly, once I got to the middle part of this book, I just wanted it to end. I wanted to finish it quickly. I have reading OCD, so I'm going to continue on with this series anyway. I'm just going to taper my expectations because that's probably the best way to read the rest of the series, honestly. I have Feels Like Falling by Christy Whitson Harvey. This was one of my least favorite books that I've read last year, and probably one of the least favorite books I've read ever. These kind of books I've quickly realized are not my favorite. These kind of like beachy books with two white women as the central characters going through things that I cannot seem to connect with or understand or even empathize. I could not empathize with these characters' struggles or their issues. It just felt very superficial. One of the things that really annoyed me was the portrayal of a gay character. It wasn't well done. It just wasn't. It felt like he was thrown in there, and his identity as being gay was thrown in there for the sake of a token diverse character, and it just didn't work. The romance was not believable. The ending was rushed. I'm glad I tried it, but I'm glad I realized that these kind of books are not for me. Then I have Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. This is book 1 in the Kindred's Curses saga. This series is popping off. Penn Cole is now traditionally published. Her first 2 books have been republished. A lot of people love this series. It is popular on Book Talk. However, I was not the biggest fan of this first book, and I see that as a common theme. Like, a lot of people weren't the biggest fan of the first book, but the second book people devoured. So I'm gonna try the second book, and hopefully I also enjoy it as much as other people did. What I didn't like about it was that it was pretty slow. Seems to be a common theme with a lot of the books that I did not like. Also, our main character, DM, she was pretty annoying, but that also seems to be a common opinion amongst people who read this series. A lot of the readers enjoy the book, enjoy the characters, did not like our main character. So I'm not going to expect anything from our main character when I read the other books. I'm not going to expect any growth or anything like that. I'm just going to read it and take it at face value, because a lot of people said that DM continues to make ridiculous decisions, even in the second and third book. However, I'm going to continue the series because the world building was really good, and Penn Cole's writing style is pretty good too. I really enjoy it. I like the way she describes things. I'll continue on, but I'm not expecting a lot from our main character, our girl DM. Then I have The Rainbow Quest by Rosella Crawford Bathurst. Rainbow Quest is a indie published book that I picked up from a local bookstore, and I had high hopes because it seemed like a very cute short book to read, but it wasn't. And I think it's because I'm just not the audience for this book. It was slow. It wasn't the most well-paced, and it read like it was meant for a younger audience. So that's why I think I'm not the audience or target audience for this book. Overall, I think this is just meant for a younger audience. My bad on picking a book that wasn't meant for me. You know what I've been doing is I'm going to be doing my first unhaul later, but I'm going to be doing my first unhaul ever, and I want to keep books that I want to pass down to my future children if I have any. So although I didn't like this book, I keep thinking that what if I have kids? Would I want to give this book to them? And I probably would. So I'm going to keep this book. Hopefully, if I do have future kids, they enjoy it. That's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have, let me know what your favorites and least favorite books of last year were. I love watching those videos. I love seeing what people enjoyed and didn't enjoy. It gives me a lot of inspiration of what to pick up next and what to avoid too. If you read any of the books I've mentioned, please let me know what your thoughts were, if you liked them or if you didn't like them. Take care of yourself, guys. Please have a happy and healthy 2025. Hopefully you guys are having a great start to the year, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.